There is zero statistical significance.
Because nobody can figure out what's being said here right now. No, there is no last thing right now. We're going to go to break.
It began like any other morning at the talk show desk. Calm, routine, and familiar. But within minutes, that calm unraveled into complete chaos. The tension ignited when co-hosts Alyssa Farah-Griffin and Sunny Hostin collided live on air. What started as a straightforward discussion quickly turned into one of the most awkward and heated moments in the show's history. The trigger was a sharp debate over education, public versus private schools, and who truly deserves the funding. Neither woman backed down. Alyssa spoke from lived experience, while Sunny came prepared with data and research. It wasn't polished or polite. It was raw and real. Voices overlapped, tempers flared, and the energy in the studio crackled. Viewers could feel the conversation slipping out of control, watching in shock as civility gave way to confrontation. Beneath the spectacle, however, was something deeper, a genuine clash of values. One side argued for personal choice, the other for public responsibility. And in that moment, the debate was no longer just about schools. It became about who gets to decide what's best for America's children.
I'm not making this up. This has been studied. In 2020, a 2020 study found that only about half of states with voucher programs require teachers to have a bachelor's degree, require teachers to have training, require teachers to have licensing, require participating private schools.
If I may get in, just to make it a conversation.
But because I have children and because I looked at
I went to public school. I believe you got to go to private school.
There is zero statistical significance.
You got to go to private school.
The studio was thick with tension, setting the tone for what quickly became a high-stakes clash. Sunny jumped right in without hesitation. She leaned forward, armed with data and receipts, pointing to a 2020 study that exposed serious concerns about private schools benefiting from voucher programs. She noted that in nearly half the states using these programs, teachers weren't even required to have a bachelor's degree. No training, no license, nothing. Her delivery was sharp and controlled, like an attorney presenting evidence in court. And with every sentence, the atmosphere grew heavier. But Alyssa wasn't backing off. She stepped in and pulled the debate closer to home. This wasn't abstract to her, it was personal. She reminded everyone that she's a parent and that she herself grew up in public schools. For her, this wasn't about studies or policies. It was about real families trying to do what they believe is best for their kids. That was the point she was determined to make. The problem was, neither side was willing to give an inch. Their voices overlapped, cutting each other off as the exchange turned into a verbal tug-of-war. Arguments crashed together, emotions ran hot, and clarity vanished. For viewers at home, it became almost impossible to follow. What began as a conversation about education had turned into something much larger. A raw, unscripted battle of wills between two strong voices, both determined to have the final say.
Nobody can figure out what's being said here right now. No, there is no last thing right now. We're going to go to break, and then we're going to come back.
Yes.
Because you can't. What's happening is no one can hear anything anyone is saying. So everybody has to
on it, so we can talk.
Well,
that
you know,
goes for you too.
I haven't gotten a word, and she's been talking for 3 minutes.
Back.
And that's when the clash pushed the show to the brink of a full meltdown. The tension peaked as Alyssa and Sunny refused to back down. Their words collided mid-air, voices talking over each other until it sounded less like a discussion and more like pure noise. The studio hummed with chaos, and all eyes shifted to the one person who could bring it to a stop, Whoopi Goldberg. Calm, steady, and in control. Her voice cut through the commotion like a knife. There is zero statistical significance. Nobody can even tell what's being said right now, she snapped, stopping the argument cold. Her tone wasn't just firm, it was final, the kind of authority that instantly takes over a room. Then came the moment everyone expected. It was time for a break. Nervous laughter rippled through the audience, the kind that comes after holding your breath too long. Relief filled the space, but the damage was already done. On live television, silence can be powerful, but chaos leaves a mark. And until Whoopi stepped in, chaos had been in charge. She didn't just pause the argument. She shut it down with the sharp authority of a teacher breaking up a fight. In that moment, it was clear this was no longer about education. It had turned into a battle for control, with the show itself hanging in the balance.
I don't really enjoy owning the libs or smacking them down. I want to hear from them and I want to learn, and I'm going to disagree, but we're going to try to find the things we can agree on, and then there's going to be some where we don't, and that's how most people live their life.
Without Whoopi stepping in, the exchange could have spiraled into territory even daytime TV isn't built to handle. But that explosive moment was only the start. The tension didn't disappear when the cameras cut. It lingered, heavy in the air, like a storm that hadn't fully passed. When the show returned from break, everything felt off. The laughter sounded forced, the smiles looked uneasy. The heat from the argument was still there, and everyone could feel it. Goldberg, ever the steady hand, didn't hesitate. She scanned the table, calm but firm, and reminded everyone why they were there in the first place. To have honest conversations, not shouting matches. We're all here at the table. Yes, and we're having a conversation. She spoke with firmness, her tone calmer now, but still carrying that unmistakable authority. Whoopi didn't brush off the clash or pretend it never happened. Instead, she reframed it for everyone watching. She explained that what they had just seen was the real side of passionate debate, the messy, unscripted moment when strong opinions collide. And to her, that was the core of the show. It was never meant to be clean or polished. Sometimes it gets tense, sometimes it gets uncomfortable. That's what happens when people truly care about what they believe. Alyssa and Sunny sat quietly, listening. Goldberg reminded them and the audience that heated debates don't have to turn personal, and that when the cameras stop, disagreements stay at the table. Her words reset the mood, giving everyone space to breathe, and showing that even the most intense moments can still teach something. As the tension eased, Alyssa spoke again, this time with a more measured tone. She made it clear she wasn't there to overpower or tear anyone down. Her goal, she said, was to listen, learn, and still stand by her beliefs. She wanted viewers to see that it's possible to disagree without disrespect. Sunny, still firm in her stance on accountability and education, held her ground. But now she paused before responding, allowing Alyssa's words to settle. The chaos had cooled, replaced by something rare on live television. A genuine exchange built on respect.
We're all here at the table.
Yes.
And we're having a conversation.
Yes.
And we're going to go back to it. But before we do, I just want to say, this is the beauty of people who have different opinions. Sometimes it's messy. We're going to go back to the convo that we were having.
The conversation shifted from a shouting match into something closer to a real debate. The tension was still there, but now it was controlled, simmering just below the surface. Both Alyssa and Sunny seemed aware of how close they'd come to crossing the line, choosing their words more carefully after Goldberg's firm intervention. Goldberg watched closely, like a calm but alert referee, ready to step in if things started to unravel again. Her steady presence alone kept the discussion in check. Everyone knew another on-air blow-up wasn't an option. Still, the disagreement hadn't disappeared. This wasn't polite small talk. It was two determined voices standing their ground, now with a bit more restraint. That raw, contained energy is what kept viewers locked in. As the show moved forward, the air around the table stayed charged. Sunny leaned in again, her tone sharpened with conviction. She wasn't throwing out data for drama. She was explaining why voucher programs spark such intense reactions. Every word landed with weight, and you could feel the tension building again. Quiet, but powerful. If states don't even require teachers to have degrees or proper training, how can parents know their children are receiving a real education? Sunny leaned in and posed her question, her words slicing cleanly through the room. Alyssa paused, took a breath, and answered with a calm but steady confidence. She stood by her belief and choice, that parents should have the right to decide what's best for their children. To her, this wasn't about government control. It was about freedom. She spoke about families trapped in struggling public schools, searching for better options. In her view, school vouchers weren't a threat to the system. They were a lifeline, a way to give parents a real chance to open new doors for their kids.
There are those moments when Alyssa will say that I disagree with. There are moments more than I think that she'll admit to. She really disagrees with me, but we leave it at the table. It's never personal, and that's how we do it. And I love that about her. I love that about our show.
The contrast between Alyssa's personal stories and Sunny's data-driven points was impossible to miss, like two entirely different worlds colliding at one table. The tension wasn't just between them anymore. Other panelists shifted uneasily in their seats, unsure whether to jump in or stay out of the crossfire. Meanwhile, the studio audience was hooked. Gasps, murmurs, and bursts of applause spread through the room as the debate heated up. This was live TV at its rawest, unpredictable, unscripted, and impossible to look away from. Through it all, Whoopi stayed quiet, observing from her seat like a strategist planning her move. Her silence wasn't hesitation, it was deliberate. She let the tension rise just enough for her words to land with impact. When she finally spoke, her voice cut through the chaos. Calm but commanding. She reminded everyone watching that disagreement isn't the problem. The real issue arises when people stop listening. Nobody can hear anything when everyone is talking over each other. She spoke sharply, though there was a hint of patient exasperation in her voice. Her words weren't just for the co-hosts. They were for anyone watching at home who had ever been stuck in a heated argument where no one would back down. Alyssa and Sunny exchanged glances, pride and determination written across their faces. Each wanted the final word, the point that would prove her side stronger. But Goldberg wasn't having it. She shifted the focus away from their duel and back to the bigger picture, the purpose of the show. Suddenly, the stakes were clear. This wasn't just about hot topics or policy debates. It was about personalities. And when personalities collided this hard, the line between entertainment and chaos blurred. Viewers weren't just watching a debate about schools. They were witnessing egos clash live, raw, messy, and utterly compelling television that lingered long after the segment ended. Yet, Whoopi didn't stop there. She acknowledged that moments like these were part of real, unscripted conversation. She didn't sugarcoat the discomfort. She framed it as essential. Sometimes it's messy, she said, and her words landed. Messy means real. Messy means passionate. Messy means the audience is seeing something authentic and unpolished. The camera lingered on Alyssa, who softened slightly. She explained that her goal wasn't to crush opposing views, but to understand them, even if agreement wasn't possible. Across the table, Sunny listened, still firm but less fiery. They remained on opposite sides, but the roar of their argument had cooled. Viewers could see the shift in real time. It was no longer about winning. It was about showing that verbal sparring could coexist with composure, that a heated argument could be guided without collapsing the table. That delicate balance made the show irresistible. Human, imperfect, dramatic, and impossible to look away from. What made the moment even more striking was Whoopi's skill in bridging the gap between fiery disagreement and mutual respect. She didn't excuse the chaos, she called it out, but she also reminded viewers that these co-hosts were colleagues capable of clashing on live TV and still leaving the table without resentment. It was a rare glimpse behind the curtain of a show built on competing voices. For viewers, it became more than daytime drama. It mirrored life itself, families arguing at dinner, friends debating online, people clashing over politics, schools, and values. Only here, it was broadcast to millions under the unblinking gaze of studio lights. In that moment, Alyssa and Sunny represented more than themselves. They represented the very nature of disagreement in a divided world. The segment ended, but its energy lingered. No one would forget the clash or Whoopi's intervention. This wasn't just another discussion on The View. It was a live, unforgettable lesson in debate, respect, and the messy human reality of strong opinions. It was a showdown, a clash of wills, a lesson all wrapped into one, leaving viewers with a lingering question. How much conflict is too much? And how much chaos can unfold under bright lights before it tips over? Then came the moment when Whoopi brought it all together, giving the audience a peek behind the curtain. She reminded everyone that clashes at this table weren't just expected, they were part of the show's DNA. There are times when Alyssa says something I disagree with, she said. And there are times when she really disagrees with me. But we leave it at the table. Her words struck deep, revealing the bigger picture. Arguments that erupt on air don't follow them backstage. No grudges, no silent treatments, no lingering resentment. That balance is what gives the show its strength. Co-hosts can challenge each other fiercely on screen and still respect one another when the cameras stop rolling. The audience also got to see a different side of Sunny and Alyssa. Despite the earlier sparks, Whoopi emphasized that their passion, not hostility, drove the debate. It was messy, yes, but it showed the table could handle strong differences without falling apart. She even offered a softer note, praising Alyssa and the show for that very resilience. After all the shouting and tension, the takeaway was clear. This wasn't just daytime drama. It was a stage where disagreement and respect could coexist. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. See you next time.